It's going to follow you. It can look like someone you know, or it can be a stranger in a crowd. It can look like anyone, but there's only one of it. What is it? It's the How to Survive podcast with Chris and Joe.
Hello.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of How to Survive, the podcast where we review films and then discuss how we'd survive if we found ourselves living in them. I'm Joe, and I'm joined by Chris.
Hello. It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. Second week.
Yes.
How was the first week?
It was good. The film could have been better.
Yep.
That's our fault.
Yeah, for picking a bad film.
Yeah.
But, also it's the movie maker's fault for not making it suitable for us.
Yeah, for our full thoughts,
yeah,
refer back to episode 1.
Yeah, and I assume you've subscribed by now, if you're listening on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming I've worked out how to do that by now.
Yeah.
We're recording this in advance. So if you have any trouble with that, maybe let me know.
Yeah.
That email is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com, and I want to hear your thoughts. Any feedback you've got. Whether you love the sound of our voices, whether you like to think of what we really look like in the flesh, whether you have any films to suggest we watch.
Yes, exactly. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anything you want to... literally anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Do get in touch. This week, we're going to be talking about a film that I really love. It's quite a chiller, a terror film, a thriller.
So it's called It Follows?
Yeah. The film is It Follows, and it is directed by David Robert Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
It goes without saying that on a review show we will be spoiling it, basically.
Yeah, we're not going to worry about spoilers. Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast, you have been warned.
Yeah, we're going
to ruin the film for you.
Yeah, and in a sense, this podcast will make a lot more sense if you have seen it.
Yes.
You'll be able to reflect with us and enjoy it some more.
Definitely.
I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of the film.
Sure.
So it opens on a woman in distress.
Mm-hmm.
Within a few minutes, she is at the beach. Apparently being followed by something.
Yes.
And then she dies. She has a flash cut to her body, dead.
Mutilated.
Yes. Next scene is our main character, who is called Jay. And she's in a pool. Water is a big motif in this movie. I'm sure we'll discuss that later on. This tension's sort of building up already from that instant she's on screen.
Yeah.
Just like you get a feeling she's being watched. You don't know what, but it's kind of a voyeuristic thing. And then there are those kids watching her, so she is almost continually being watched by something. But as the movie progresses, she goes on a date with her existing boyfriend, she's been dating for a few weeks by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Crucially, she hasn't slept with him yet.
Yes, exactly. But she does. Within the first sort of 20 minutes, she sleeps with the guy.
Yeah.
He then knocks her out with chloroform, ties her to a wheelchair, and tells her that she has been cursed by the act of sex, because he previously had the curse. The curse basically says that if you sleep with someone with the curse, you become cursed, and the curse is basically that you will be followed by a monster which will kill you if it catches you.
Yes, exactly, like the girl in the prologue.
Yeah, exactly. But importantly, the monster can only go at walking speed, and it can only walk, we assume.
Yeah. But it can look like anyone.
Yep.
It can take the form of anyone.
Anyone you know, so it could trick you into thinking it's one of your friends, and you go up and shake its hand and actually it kills you.
Yes, exactly. And so the rest of the film plays out, I guess, as her trying to find a way to survive this curse.
Exactly. And she does. More or less. But there's a but. The film plays out, she goes from place to place, to haunted house, to swimming pool.
Yeah.
We'll discuss all this
as it comes up.
Yeah, but you've seen the film, assuming.
Yes.
So we won't go into too much detail. But
exactly.
The film ends with her having passed it on to a prostitute.
She passes it on to her boyfriend.
Her new boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who gives it to the prostitute. And the implication is either that they don't really care anymore,
or that they've sort of
developed a system.
Yeah, like they've sort of come to terms with maybe having to deal with it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And the last shot is very chilling. It has them walking down the street, and someone's walking behind them. And you as the viewer, you think, oh no, but then they don't seem that bothered.
Yes,
so.
But it's not necessarily that it is or isn't the monster. But my feeling to it was that it almost doesn't matter whether it is or isn't.
Yeah.
Because regardless of it, they're going to have that feeling of being followed for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Because the only way for the curse to break is for it to kill you.
Yes.
Otherwise, because if the person next in the chain, if I pass it on to someone and they die, it comes back to me. So that's an important part of it. So the things to remember are, it gets passed on through sex. You can pass the curse on by having sex with someone else.
Yeah.
If you die, it goes back to that person. So there's a vested interest in your survival for them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it can only walk.
There's a mutual interest in everybody with the curse surviving, basically.
Yeah.
Which I want to return to later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you like the film?
I really like the film. I think it's a lot of modern films rely on jump scares and things like horror films. Whereas this film is much more about like building up of tension, and when it does reveal scary moments, because there are really creepy and horrible, grotesque things that happen. Yeah, it's portrayed in such a like plain way that it's almost like it's like a wide-eyed scare. There's no real moment in the film where you see a flash of the monster or a leg disappearing down a corridor or whatever. It's more because of the nature of the monster just walking directly towards you. It's almost like the horror comes from
a continual build-up.
Knowing that it's coming for you and you being able to see it but not be able to stop it.
Yeah, and it almost feels like every scene, there's not a lot happening, but you're continually thinking, you're filled with dread of when's it going to arrive? When's it going to arrive? Is it there yet?
You end up interrogating the screen to try and find like that one person in the background who seems to be walking towards the camera.
If they're ever in a crowd or in a public place, you can assume that the monster's going to be there eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, another important part. You can only see the monster if you're cursed.
Yes, exactly. That's a pretty crucial part.
Yeah, but if you pass it on, you can still see it, even though it's not coming.
Anyone who has ever been infected with a curse can see the monster. Yeah, but other people can't.
Exactly, that's an important part. I also enjoyed the film. I think, in terms of a horror movie, I think it's such a uniquely tight set of rules. Yeah, it doesn't come to pieces through explaining anything. It doesn't come to pieces through just the jump scare like getting boring. Like every single thing seems important. Yeah. Even the scenes where nothing seems to be happening too much, like when she's putting on makeup in the mirror, you kind of get the feeling that the pictures on her mirror are going to be important somehow. Yeah. Because
it seems like a film where you need to, because I guess because of that element where you're just looking in the background constantly, that it makes you feel like you need to be watching everything on the screen all in one go. Yeah.
Like everything's going to be important. What do you think are your talking points for the film? What do you want to bring up?
So I want to talk about the monster, right? It's only ever called It, right? Right. It never gets given a name. Which is one thing that I really appreciate about the film, is that it avoids that scene that you see in so many horror films where they go to an old man who's got a dusty old book. He goes, "Oh yes, I think I remember." And he pulls out of the bookcase blows the dust off of it. He goes, "Oh, it goes back to medieval times when witches used to," and all that sort of shit. Doesn't bother with any of that.
That's one of my big problems with horror films. And I kind of touched on it just now, but basically, I mean, you look at your Paranormal Activities and your Insidious, your any other word like Insidious, Sinister. Yeah, these found footage sort of movies. In a big way, they're just spoiled by the fact that you have to explain what it is. Yeah, that always lets you down. Yeah. Friday the 13th we did last week. Yeah. It was kind of like
we spent like 40 minutes talking about how ridiculous it was that it was an old lady doing all the killing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it was still coherent inside that movie. Yeah. You didn't go away feeling cheated. And I do get that a lot with
horror films generally.
Yeah. But with It Follows, you're right. There was no need for anyone to explain it because it's tied up so neatly in that set of rules of you've got it, you need to pass it on, it's going to get you.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the monster.
Okay.
It's the things we know about it, right? It's slow. It can only move at walking pace. Right. Right. It's powerful, like to the point of there are moments in the film where it gets shot through the head and survives it, just gets straight back up. Right?
It also lashes out at someone and breaks their...
Yeah, well, knocks them flying through the air. Yeah, right? So it's obviously really strong.
Very powerful.
It's only visible to the hosts or the victims, right, of the curse. Yeah. It's smart. We get told it's smart.
Yeah,
it's slow, but it's
smart.
And it
does come up again.
So don't, they make a point of saying don't let yourself get backed into a corner. That sort of thing. It can look like anyone, and we see it look like elderly people, children, relatives of the victims, previous victims, her best friend. So it will, like we say, it's smart. It will do anything to try and get close to you. one thing is we never see it in any sort of vehicle or transport, right?
Right.
So according to our own rules, Joe, for the full rules you can hear on the previous podcast, Rule 3, you can't assume things we don't already know, right? So within the film we never see it get on transport, use a car, get on a bus, or anything like that. This is going to be crucial in my theory of how to survive.
You're building a case here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm laying the groundwork. Right. So we can't assume that it can do any of those things, but it doesn't need to. One thing that I think is really interesting is that it, above like hiding or lying in wait, it seems to much prefer like scaring. There are scenes where it will just be, because obviously it just walks straight towards the people, right?
Yeah.
But it could do it in a way. So like the first time you see the monster, other than when she sees the monster on her own, is she's at school or university, and there's an old woman in a hospital gown, walking across a field alone, and there's like obviously something really unsettling about that image because it's so out of place, right? That implies that the monster, because it knows, I mean, we know it's smart, right? Yeah. It knows that that's weird and it's trying to scare the person,
right? Yeah,
there's no reason for it to, because it could look like a student or like whatever.
Just walk in.
Exactly. Yeah. So it does try and scare people.
So you think it has? Is that what it desires, to scare them as well as kill them?
Well, I mean, the thing that it desires is never really touched upon, apart from one scene where Greg gets killed.
Right. He's the lover that she takes in the hospital.
So in one attempt to get rid of the curse, is she gives it to Greg, who she feels is more capable of
getting rid of it and dealing with the obvious stress associated with it. Yeah,
exactly. So the plan doesn't work, and Greg dies. Yeah, and Jay tries to sort of warn him
to intervene.
Yeah, but when she does, she sees the monster with Greg in his room. Yeah, and it's basically like fucking him to death.
That's the thing. It seems to be joining with him in some way with the slime. He's taking the form of his mother, which is like really weird.
Grotesque, yeah. There's a lot of that sort of weirding.
I think for a movie with a lot of sex, none of it is even slightly sexy. No. It's just uncomfortable. Yeah. Which is to the benefit of the film. He's not trying to be like... No. It's kind of taking that whole... The cliche of the horror movie, the teen horror movie. Everyone's got their bra on all the time. Yeah. But in this movie, when they have their bra on, it's never like a sexy lingerie shot with their boobs. It's like she's dishevelled and being chased by the demon. It's like it works.
Like crying.
It takes that cliche and subverts it so well. Yeah. As it does with most of the cliches, it examines, I guess is the word.
Yeah. Which, when you know that there's like a sexual element to how it kills people as well, going back and looking at the first girl that gets killed, it's pretty horrific. Yeah,
she's got that like her leg bent the wrong way.
Like her thigh is basically snapped in half. I mean, you've seen the film. Yeah, so it's grotesque, right?
It's horrible.
So I think that it's like it's a really great movie monster. And like it's so good that it doesn't rely on special effects, doesn't rely on like anything like that. It's such a simple but like really creative idea. And I think, I mean, if you look back at the great pantheon of horror films, of like really good horror films, a lot of them are like the less you see, the scarier it is. Yeah, it's the same thing as explaining what the demon is. If you have to show the demon, then often there's like the letdown. Like what you can't see, like Alien. You don't see the alien for like an hour and a half, and that is terrifying. Yeah. And then when you do see it, you only see like small parts. You don't get a clear look at it for maybe ever. I mean, like you
get close-ups when it's like licking your ear and stuff. But
and then James Cameron comes along, and the next film it has like 400 of them.
And that's the thing. When you can see their whole bodies, that's less intimidating.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I think it works really, really well. I'd be interested to know what you think the monster, like what it represents, because I guess that it's. I mean, like you could take it at face value and just say it's like a curse and that's it, right? But I think that there's maybe more to it. Yeah. There's quite an interesting thing about absent parents or absent adults, right?
The adults in the movie are, I mean, the mum is given as a kind of drunk, and every scene she's in, she's either gossiping there's one scene where she says something just to further the plot about gossip, essentially.
Yeah, it's
the rest
like,
of it,
they're talking about Jay's first boyfriend who gives her the curse. It's like, apparently he used a fake address.
Right. And then, but the other scene she's in, she's drunk herself unconscious, or she's asleep in the hospital.
Yes.
There's no value for the adults.
No, exactly. They serve no. They're not in any way like a safety blanket.
No, you can't go to the adults.
No,
for help. Also, another thing to its credit, the movie doesn't play on. I mean, we watched Friday the 13th last week, and they're idiots. They don't seem to be aware of each other. They don't care about each other. Whereas this one, they're a tight knit unit. They obviously are best friends. They're sharing fart jokes. They know each other intimately. They've shared their first kiss. They establish all this, and you care a lot more about them than you would if it was the Friday the 13th sort of situation. You care about if one of them died, you'd care about how the others would feel about it.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing. But the question you asked was, what do I think it represents?
Yeah.
I'd say continual anxiety, I guess. I mean, I've kind of cheated because I've read a lot around the movie in the lead up to this. And I'm aware that director David Robert Mitchell has said he didn't necessarily have anything in mind, but it's based on dreams he's had.
Right, yeah.
Where, you've had the dream. You've been followed by something.
There's like some sort of anxiety element.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of feeling that he was trying to get across. I think he does.
Yeah, it does
perfectly.
Exactly.
The whole movie, you're just in dread.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of contributing factors like the score and everything that's happening, but that feeling, that underlying, oh my god, is just there all the time, and I love it for that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mention the score as well, because that I think ties into like the weird setting that the film has, because it's like this weird mystery time, right? Because it's like it's not modern day, and it feels like it's sort of like 1980s.
But then there's things from like the future.
Exactly, like e-readers. For example,
that like oyster thing she's got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like but it's weird and like kitschy sort of thing.
They go to the cinema, and
it's an old film.
They're playing an organ.
Right.
So all the cars they drive are kind of muscle cars. They're timeless.
Yeah.
The fashion, the clothes they wear, they could be vintage or they could be just like cool clothes to wear.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the score, as you say, harks back to that
like 1980s sort of synthy sort of sound.
Exactly.
It's quite like the Drive.
Yeah, sound. Exactly. Drive and the place behind the
place beyond the prize.
It's that kind of the synthy.
Yeah. Which is I think is really cool, right?
Yeah.
I've read some people think that the monster represents the Grim Reaper, which I think is just quite a simple reading of it.
Well, as soon as you have sex with someone, you're going to get.
Well, like I mean, so there's a couple of people. A lot of people think it's representative of AIDS, right?
Yeah,
HIV or AIDS. Right?
I'm not sure how far I buy that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I disagree. I'm not sure I agree with that. Right? I think that's just quite an obvious comparison to draw. Yeah. Similarly, I think a lot of people think it's about. The Grim Reaper constantly marching towards you. You have to do everything that you can to try and get away from it, but it's going to catch up with you eventually.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that makes sense.
Death,
yeah, exactly. That makes sense. But again, I think that's sort of like a pretty face value thing. What I think is quite interesting is whether they see sex as like the turning point from becoming turning from a child into an adult. Because I think that it's not explicitly said, right? But I think it's a relatively safe assumption that Jay's a...
No, it is said. I think that she says she slept with Greg previously back in high school. So I went into the movie thinking, the second time around, thinking, I wonder if she's a virgin.
Right.
And I was looking for signs, and I think she said that.
But I still think that there's like a distinction that... Because obviously a lot of people see sex as like one of the cornerstones of turning from a child into an adult, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's almost like sex is used as like a transition into being an adult, and the monster's like a manifestation of like of the fear of growing up.
Okay.
Because they're all like university age or slightly younger.
Yeah. I think the eldest one's probably maybe 20 at best.
Yeah, but they're all in a sort of state of arrested development. Yeah. Right. They're all still in education.
There's the sense that they're adult because you can get the feeling that they've raised themselves. A bit. They're still watching cartoons.
Yeah, exactly.
Then they're reading Dostoevsky.
Yeah,
it's just so many children doing adult things.
So I was wondering if it was like a sense of responsibility and stuff, and that there's this like sin element to like having sex, and it's like punishing, you for making that transition, maybe doing it too soon or not with the right person or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think the anxiety that a lot of people have about virginity and that sort of thing is maybe a part of like that.
I mean, once it's done, you can't undo it.
Yeah, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
And I think that still is like, it's letting go of childhood, right?
Yeah.
And like we were saying about adults and parents and their absence, what I think is really interesting is in the final scene, we're talking about the monsters wanting to scare, right?
And it takes the form of her father.
Exactly, right? And the father being like this violent. Well, it's interesting how they do this, because I just naturally get the assumption that her father, who is apparently absent from the family.
Yeah, I take it he was dead.
He's either dead, yeah. But the portrayal of him just being in like his pajamas or like sleeping clothes, right? Just for some reason activates this thing in my brain of him being like a drunkard or maybe abusive or something like that.
Right.
She doesn't want to say who the monster looks like.
Yeah.
As well in that scene.
She doesn't want to face what's happening, I guess.
The monster's doing that to scare her, right?
Yeah.
So her father is like a figure of fear to her, and I wonder if that's like representative of like her having to take responsibility, transitioning out of childhood,
become an adult,
and like face the problems that adults maybe have. I mean, it's probably reading a bit too much into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, there's no bad interpretation.
No,
you are entitled to interpret how you want, as with anything. But I do like the idea that it is just a pure representation of this anxiety, because the mechanic of being able to pass it on, having that in it kind of suggests to me that it isn't meant to be a metaphor for anything, that it is just supposed to be a scary story, and they've done a particularly good scary story. Yeah. But maybe I'm being too reductionist.
I think there's an element of, you can read into films whatever you like. I'm a big fan of that sort of school of thought. I don't think there's any wrong answers necessarily.
There's a difference between what the director directly intended and what he subconsciously or we can read into it. Or,
exactly, it doesn't necessarily make it right or wrong or whatever. It doesn't matter.
So I watched this movie with my girlfriend, who is a psychologist, and she proposed a theory about what it really is. Okay. And I think it's quite interesting. I want to know what you think of that. She thinks it's
bullshit.
Oh yeah, well, I'm glad we cleared that up. Moving on.
Carry on.
She thinks, I don't know if she actually thinks this or she was being said. Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to hold it to her. She shouldn't have said it if she didn't want it to be read out on air. Yeah. On a podcast. She thinks it's a particularly powerful strain of syphilis, which within minutes causes instantaneous syphilitic encephalitis. I had to read that out slowly. So syphilitic encephalitis.
So she actually thinks that it's like a shared hallucination among people who give syphilis to one another, and it instantly takes hold.
Instantly, yeah. Because she's changed the chair, so I guess it's not necessarily instantly, but within sort of 15-20 minutes.
Shortly.
It's spread to the brain. Yeah. The brain's begun to
rewired the brain.
Yeah, it's begun
to become susceptible to a very specific type of hallucination.
Yeah, exactly.
That everyone shares.
Yeah, but the hallucination can be adjusted. So that if you have sex with someone, you then assume that they... I don't know how this accounts for them actually dying.
Because the girl at the start of the film, so it was her brain that broke her leg in half.
Yeah. That's another symptom of this particular bad strain of syphilis.
Greg shags himself to death with a shared hallucination.
Well, yeah, but he could be just laying on the floor gyrating. The hallucination is the monster.
Yeah, okay. The heaters, etc., heaters, toasters, hairdryers, etc., that are thrown at Jay when she's in the pool.
They could be hallucinations.
Shared by people who don't have the disease.
So moving on, I want to know, the question we're here to ask and answer and discuss and critique is, how would you survive? But we'll begin, as we always do, by saying who was the first to die in the movie? And the answer is Annie. That's her name, as it was with Friday the 13th.
Yes, we are only going to be covering films where the first person who dies is called Annie.
Yeah. Can you name any others off the top of your head?
This is the end of the podcast.
Okay, so welcome to the last episode of...
so Annie,
she's the one who runs around in her high heels, runs down the road for a bit, I guess she could be hallucinating in retrospect, and it's like kind of chasing her around.
I think the syphilis idea is a relatively...
No, I said hallucinating. I mean, I think she might be seeing the monster.
Right.
Like, and it's running right behind her. Because we think she's just running around in circles.
No, that's what I assumed,
Yeah. Well, you can't assume. Rule 3, Chris. Don't
Sorry.
assume things we don't know.
Yeah.
But she gets in the car. She goes to the beach, where she then sits in the sand, and the lights are facing her. Mm-hmm. You don't actually see the monster arrive, but you see the aftermath, which is her broken at the thigh and dead. She
basically kills herself, doesn't she? Essentially, she basically lets herself die.
She gives up.
Yeah. Okay. So, how I would survive that?
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Yeah. Do anything.
I mean, the solution to any of their deaths is essentially the same.
Yeah, and it's the same if you found yourself planted in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we'll say we're going to cover the main
specific characters or whatever.
But I think, arguably,
this is like a universal situation.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't have access to millions of dollars as per Rule 1 and Rule 2 of the podcast. That is, we have to observe the established rules of the film, and we have to, as far as possible, take on the role of the character. Yeah,
so the character doesn't have loads of money, and neither do we.
No, exactly. So we can't. There's no buying a Harrier jet or buying a colony on Mars or anything.
Yeah, okay.
So you just clear that out of the way.
I'm still confident about my...
Confident with yours?
Yeah.
All right, Chris. Let me know. I want to know, how would you... So you're looking so smug right now. That I feel like...
Mate, my idea is watertight.
Watertight.
Yeah,
all right.
Watertight. You said water was a big theme in this film.
Yeah.
It's watertight.
Well, let's hope so.
No leakage.
Okay, I'm going to be taking notes and scrutinising.
Please do.
Okay,
right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you find out that you've got the curse.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
So you turn around...
Same way as Jay, or this is...
Yeah, or like, let's say
morning after.
We're in a normal situation, right? Let's assume that you're in a situation that is escapable.
Okay.
You realise it, the things were walking towards you, right? You realise, shit, I've got that curse.
Right. It was real. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, get in a car. I assume you have a car. The character has a car, or has access to cars, right?
Yeah.
So it's fair assumption to say that you have a car.
You can come by a car.
They have an amount of money, right? Presumably. Mm-hmm. Even if it's collateral in terms of the house, property, anything like that, right? Either way, right? What we're aiming to do here, Joe, is to buy a plane ticket to Sydney. Okay?
Right, no, fair.
Now, I'll return you to our earlier point about the monster's non-use of transport. So, we get on a plane to Sydney. We fly to Sydney. Okay. Detroit, where the film is set, to Sydney is 9,475 miles.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
We got that number in your head? Okay. 9,475.
9,475.
Yeah. So the monster, based on everything that we see in the film, only travels by one method, that's walking, and it travels at a slow walking pace. Like average. Right. So rounding it up to a generous average walking pace, that's 3 miles per hour.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I looked that up. Okay. So average walking pace for internationally for humans is 3 miles an hour. Right?
Okay.
9,475 days. Right. Assuming it walks. Right. It gets to the sea. It can't take any transport because we don't see it ever taking any transport.
Yeah.
We assume that water has no elemental effect on it.
Yeah.
Right. Because we've got no reason to assume that.
Well, I disagree there. But here's my first point of contention. And I don't want to break up your too much. But it doesn't seem to like it when it's in the pool. Once it goes in, it seems to stay in there. And then it turns into a red mist. Yeah. So I'd argue...
It's been shot in the head, though. Twice.
Yeah, but when I get a shot in the head, I don't fill the pool with blood.
But you can't assume that that's the reason. Based on what we see, it's fine.
Well, we don't see the monster after that, so it could be gone.
Well, it could be, but we can't assume that it's gone. Well, otherwise, then, fine, just take it to a swimming pool and shoot it.
Push it in.
Yeah. Right?
Right, okay. I just want listeners to be aware that I have the concern about water around this particular monster.
Your concern is noted.
Okay.
So the monster is travelling at an average walking pace of 3 miles an hour, okay? That gives us 131 days, right? Even if it takes us some time to get an Australian working visa, which you can get at relatively short notice if you're travelling, which to all intents and purposes we, or the main character, are, you start working, you get some money, right? After exactly 131 days, right?
Yeah.
The monster would have travelled 9,475 miles.
Exactly half a year.
Yeah. So you've got 6 months to save up enough money for a return flight to Detroit.
Nice.
Okay, so you fly back to Detroit, the monster has to turn around, and you've got another 6 months, right? From that point onwards in your life, you split your time between America and Sydney, and you could still be sleeping with people, passing the curse on, hoping they pass the curse on, but you've got that double, it's belt and braces, you've got that double security of always putting 6 months worth of distance between you and the monster.
So is this... You wait till it gets to the shores of the...
Essentially, the
continent. Yeah. You also, I think, you're not factoring in the concept that you walk very slowly through water.
Yeah.
So that's going to...
I know, this is a low... I'm lowballing the amount of days you got, because better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm going to say 6 months.
But you don't want to underestimate it too much, and then end up with it just like a mile out to sea, and then you think, I've got 6 months, and then it's knocking the door down.
Well, that's a... Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that 6 months worth of walking in either direction is going to put it
somewhere in the sea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
There's part B to my
survival plan. A second clause.
Right.
Yeah.
While you're saving money for your constant flying back and forth between Detroit and Sydney, right? You're also saving money secondarily. Right? Okay.
What do you do for work?
I don't know. Fucking bartender or whatever. I don't know.
Bartender earns enough to go. You're not talking about pennies here. It's a substantial amount of money to relocate your entire life every 6 months.
You live out a backpack, mate. I mean, you got to accept life on the road if you're in this situation.
Oh, go on. Yeah.
So,
secondary reserve,
fund, right? Yeah. Then you wait until the monster arrives. Then what you've done is chartered a short notice flight from where you are to a destination whose flight path is directly over the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest point of the Pacific Ocean, right? Oh, 10,000 metres below sea level. Right. Mm-hmm. The monster walks in a straight line. Admittedly, it is smart, all right? I'll take that criticism It could walk around
circumnavigate
it, right? Yeah. But you fly that flight, and then you wait. If you wait a year and it still hasn't turned up, it's a safe bet. Safe enough, at least, that it's fallen into the deepest point of the Earth, and therefore it's gonna have a difficult time getting back to you.
But it will get out.
Well,
it's smart. I've seen it in the movie.
It's not subject.
It doesn't try and walk through walls.
No, but it's not subject to.
It's not
forces.
Not say that properly.
So it is subject to forces that are physical.
But gravity.
Right.
Bullets.
We can assume current. Yeah. All right. It's gonna have a hard time getting out of the Mariana Trench.
Okay.
Right. No, let's say how long do you think it would take to climb 10,000 meters?
A long time, but
then
there's
but if it gets to the top, if it gets to 9,000 meters up, and then falls.
Yeah. I take your point. Okay.
This is deeper.
This is a good concept, but in the movie. It swims.
Yeah.
So it can swim.
Have you seen it swimming though?
Well,
it's fucking shit.
Yeah, but
it's like doggy paddling.
It's still
doggy paddling in the Pacific Ocean, Joe.
Well, it's still better than walking.
It's currents and everything, right? Okay. I have a third.
I'll admit I'm grasping at straws just to.
Yeah.
So far, so watertight. But go on.
I have a third element to this plan, right? And this is like the nuclear option, okay? It still feeds into the same plan, right? Of the back and forth across the globe, right? To keep it in the sea or whatever. Right?
Jet setting.
Go public. Go big and go public, right? Okay. You're not the only person who's seen this, right? Who's been subject to it, right? Presumably, I know parents, police, etc. are absent, but police are in the film. They do exist in the universe, and they are shown collecting evidence at the scene of Jay's assault, which shows that they do have due diligence, right? Okay, So there will be a number of unsolved murders, right, where this monster has killed people. So you offer them an explanation for it as a group, a massive group of people, right? Let's say someone is a member of the group who's been living, like maybe there's someone who's very elderly, they've been living this whole life, but they managed to pass it on, it got passed on again, they've managed to survive somehow. They're near the end of their lives, right? they don't want other people to suffer as they have, right? So what they do is, and this is not contravening Rule 4.
I think it is. I think you're about to say that you should convince them to kill themselves.
Yeah, but I'm not saying necessarily that I'm doing it against their will, because I think...
Well, I'll just factor in the fact that Lara Croft wants to sleep with me in the film.
Well, that's ridiculous, John. All right, okay, we'll find.
All right.
So there must be a way, right, of demonstrating to the authorities that this is a real physical force, right?
Yeah.
You got the murders, you got this group of people who will swear by it, you go public in a big way, there's surely enough victims of the curse for you to
build a case.
Yeah, to build a case. It matches the unsolved things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can draw a line, a line of the connections between all these different people. It makes a lot of sense. It'd be like the world's greatest serial killer, but they can join the dots.
Yeah.
So what begins is a form of national service exchange program between America and Australia. Okay, so
all right.
Right, you allow yourself to get the curse. In return, you get a 6-month exchange program holiday in the opposing nation, which
gives it the time to cross.
Which keeps it in the ocean, right? Not only that, but you've got the full might of both the Australian and the American governments, right, who both believe by this point that this thing exists.
Okay,
it's a physical force, right? Yeah. So you can live out your life in relative comfort, knowing that there's a queue of people. It's fucking right. Everyone wants to go to Australia. Right? There's many people moving there every day. Yeah. So all you have to do is, right, as part of national service.
What happens if when I'm in Australia, I volunteered, I'm an American. Mm-hmm. Yeehaw, buddy. Yeah. I sleep with a pretty young thing. Yeah. Head on out to Australia. Yeah. I'm having a great time. Yeah. I get bitten by a tarantula. I'm dead. But I don't tell anyone. Yeah, I don't tell anyone.
Yeah, but they'd be under surveillance
because that's not bad for a holiday.
Yeah, but like, if it's to save the lives of many, right, I'm sure the governments would put them up in like a plush surrounding.
True.
True.
It's
like national service, It's like
fine.
So you've got like a queue of people who doing that every couple of months, right? And then it's midway in the ocean, almost constantly.
Yeah, it's really stuck out there.
So, yeah.
Can you track it? Is there a way? I mean, if you can put
you can put a tracker in it.
You can
throw a sheet over it.
Yeah, you can probably use radar.
There's fucking loads of things. Right? What I'm saying is, go public and you get people involved who maybe do have access.
Yeah, entrepreneurs
exactly
who have
fucking Mark Zuckerberg. He'll get involved.
Yeah.
Like Kickstarter.
The guy,
GoFundMe.
Tesla guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He'd make some sort of
electric car
and maybe an electric cage to keep.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's loads of options, Joe.
Okay, well, I like the idea. I think the only problem we're going to have is convincing people it's real. Yeah. And the only way to really do that is to infect them. Yeah. Because that's in the film, she's like, oh, "You're an idiot. You're a liar," until she sees it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a hurdle, Joe.
Yeah. But big goals. Aim for the stars, and you might hit the moon.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'd love to know if your theory of how to survive it is as well thought out as mine was.
Well, I've only got 2 pages of notes. So, I think in the movie they had the right idea in sleeping with the prostitute, because obviously a prostitute's job is to sleep with people. Mm-hmm. So I think good on them for thinking of that.
You're opening up other avenues.
Exactly. Yeah, you're giving the monster another path to go down.
Sure.
How I'd improve on that, I'd have gone for a more high-end prostitute. Because the ones shown in the movie,
low grade.
They're backwater, hayseed. They're rough. Yeah. Rough looking.
But I'd like to invoke rule number 2 here. Do you think that they have the assets to secure a high-end prostitute?
Well, yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, on the basis that they can go to Australia, if you could have that, then I can have.
Fair point. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, fine. Sleep with the prostitute.
High-end prostitute. Yeah.
The risk there's 2 risks of this, which I've acknowledged. One, they might be so high-end they only have to work once a week. But the thing it opens up is that they might have regulars. So there's going to be a regular stream of new channels. Yeah. And that's something that's important. Whereas the one they go for might have one visitor every 2 weeks. Yeah. Or they might not. That's the thing. We don't. Without surveying the prostitutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't know enough about. Yeah. And rule 3, we can't
assume. Yeah. So, all I'm saying, I'd perhaps rather than going for a more high-end prostitute, the question is is there a way to establish that the prostitute sleeps with many partners?
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the case, I'd set up a survey, I'd find out the prostitute that has the most business and sleep with her, thus opening as many
channels.
Exactly, other channels. Because if that John dies,
the
next John is going to be next in line, presumably. Or she'll be a hub at least.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one idea. The second idea is similar to yours, but I don't think planes are necessarily the way.
Right.
What I'd do is buy a recreational vehicle, or a caravan, camper van of some kind. I'd set out on the open road.
Right.
Live
a hermit's life.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Even then, you don't have to sleep with anyone. As long as you just keep 100
keep trucking.
So based on your measurements you had earlier, I'm fairly sure it can walk about 70 miles in a day.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah.
So as long as I keep 71 miles between me and it at all times, I've got a whole day to do whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
Which, that's not that far.
No.
So me and the camper van will hit the open road. I'll set up a business online, selling ebooks about the camper van life, how to cook in a camper van.
Like Bill Bryson sort of
exactly.
novels, okay.
How to cook in a camper van, how to keep your camper van clean.
Sure. How to escape dangerous sex monsters.
Yeah, exactly, in the camper van.
Yeah.
How to facilitate prostitutes in a camper van.
Sure.
Because that's probably going to come important. I could find a new sexual partner in every city in the world, well, in the landmass that I'm on.
Yeah.
And that seems like a decent way to go. As long as there's 70 miles between you and it, then I'm happy with that. I want to hear your thoughts on that, but I do have one other one.
I mean, you're essentially swearing yourself to a life of celibacy unless you can keep track of where the curse is roughly, because if you're just touring the US constantly, chances are you may eventually stumble back into the city where the monster is.
Right, that's true. So if you sleep with someone in every city, you don't know where it's going to end up.
No, and it's smart as well, so it could, I don't know, it's not necessarily going to follow you, all the time. I mean, it must have some...
I think that's his point, isn't it? It does follow you all the time.
But it must have some sort of knowledge of where you are, right? So if it's smart, it might know where you're going to as well.
Maybe.
So it can intersect.
Yeah, but rule 3, you're assuming.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So my last option, my last proposal, is to build as long a chain as possible.
Right.
So for this, I haven't really thought this through enough, but I'd propose a Guinness World Record of some kind for
the longest chain.
The longest chain of sex. And so I'd have sex with person 1. Person 1 would have sex with person 2. Person 2.
Ad infinitum.
Yeah, and my premise would be that I'm trying to break the record for the longest sex chain, which is something I made up for the point of this. But really, I'm just trying to get as much distance between me and it as possible.
Sure.
Problem is, you'd have to have the convention in one place.
Yeah.
So
tricky.
You're inviting pressure, but
you could do it on a plane.
Yeah. the longest chain in a plane.
Yeah.
Has quite a ring to it. So the essence being create as long a chain as possible.
I don't have it. Yeah. I think you'd benefit from the government support that I had in my theory. I think that's
well, any government funding is always
exactly welcome, including for this podcast.
If
howto5show@gmail.com
podcast is listening.
So I take your point. I think those are good. I think they're solid ways to survive.
I'm glad you think so.
I mean, I'm surprised that in fact that Jay didn't. At no point did Jay consider getting an RV.
Yeah, or starting an online business.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's lazy.
We don't know that they have the internet.
No, that's true.
That's assuming.
I mean, they have an ebook, but
there's no. I'm
that's
going to go on
good that you've said about ebooks because that's a market that you know exists.
Yeah, the Oyster e-reader market.
Exactly. Yeah. We've got a reader suggestion.
Okay, go on. Who's this from?
This is from Tom.
Welcome, Tom.
He writes in saying, for it follows his proposal for survival.
Okay.
You could seal yourself in a see-through but unbreakable cell. So you still have contact with people through the walls, and food can be slipped through grates large enough only for the tray. Okay. Only take delivery of items smaller than a person, or assemble items on the other side, and you'd survive.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
My only issue is, it's so determined. Like, I've seen it trying to hack through things.
Right.
I think, I don't know what you're making this cell out of, this unbreakable cell. But I don't know of anything on Earth that's impenetrable to 100 years of hacking away.
Yeah, like things break because of weather.
Yeah.
I mean, but in 100 years we'll be dead.
I mean, I'm assuming we're ignoring the rule about having no funds.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose so, yeah. Well, I mean, unless you're an engineer.
Yeah. Or you happen to have a bulletproof glass factory. The other thing is, it throws things incredibly hard.
Yeah.
So it could get a particularly hard Brussels sprout and kill you with a good throw, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
But it presumably has to sex you to death.
No, I don't think so. It's just lobbing things at her.
Yeah, but is it trying to kill her or just trying to get her out of the pool?
Well, good point. Well, we only see it kill someone with sex once. And the first death is, you can say it was sex, or you could just say it was a brutal murder.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, does it break rule 3? You could argue it either way.
You could do. You can't assume things we don't already know. We don't know that it necessarily...
Definitely kills them for sex.
Yeah,
with sex.
But based on everything that we see, that is the only way that we see it killing. Yeah. And the only other person that we see killed is Annie.
She hasn't got the slime on her arm.
Yeah, okay. It's difficult. It is difficult. I mean...
Let's put a pin in it.
Yeah, the unbreakable see-through cell.
Yeah.
My question would be, why not... If you've got that technology, why not put it in there?
That's my point. I think it can dig out. It will find a way to bore through.
What if you stood...
Plus, how are you going to get it to sit in there for long enough? It's very smart.
What understanding of like technology and things does it have? It must have some, because it throws all the electrical stuff into the water.
But is it trying to electrocute her or just bludgeon her?
Well, it recognises a trap, though.
But that's.
But at no other point do we see it try and just bludgeon people. Right. It's always its primary goal throughout the whole film appears to be just get as close to the thing as
scare them in the process.
Yeah. So my assumption is that it recognises a trap. We know it's smart, right? So
I don't think you could trap it. That's the thing. I think
unless he fell into the Mariana Trench,
then seal that with a big
concrete,
bit of perspex,
like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I've got one more letter, which was emailed in to our email address, which is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. We want to hear from you as well.
Sure.
This is from Kerry, who is now a regular writer.
Yeah, our first regular correspondent.
Friend of the show, Kerry.
Yeah.
He says, firstly, I'd buy myself some time by taking a road trip to several cities and availing myself of the services of several prostitutes in several cities. Each prostitute would pass it on very quickly, probably the same night, and by the time it had killed their first client, they would have probably passed it on to another. This should keep it off my tail for quite a while. Secondly, before I say secondly, you get your hand in the air.
I've one point to raise. Right. My understanding is that if you sleep with someone else having passed on the curse, that person C doesn't get the curse.
Unless the curse has come back to you. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So Kerry is gambling on the first prostitute that he sleeps with, because remember, he can't pass it on secondarily.
No, of course.
Right. So the first prostitute he sleeps with, he's banking on her whenever she's cursed, either the time when he sleeps with her or if her client dies, sleeping with someone between the death of her client and the thing finding her, and presumably within the same city.
Yeah. That is a genuine
risk. It's risky.
It's something he hasn't thought through.
No.
But he does add, secondly.
Okay, I'm willing to hear him out.
Immigrate to Australia, as it doesn't seem to like water, and live out the rest of my life in the sunshine, occasionally dealing with the bouts of guilt caused by the first step.
Rule 3, you can't assume that the thing doesn't like water.
Well, it does die in water.
Does it die? You can't assume that it dies.
This is the point. It's like a tea bag. It goes like a tea bag and fills the pool with blood.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by MrT.co.uk.
What I want to bring up, actually, I think the survival element we've covered. Going just back to the film and theories about it, the blood in the pool, I find that really disturbing. Right, really creepy and unsettling, and I think it's a combination of just seeing it and also like the soundtrack is really intense, and I think it's quite significant that literally the next scene is her passing it on to Paul. Now I wonder if in that blood she's seen something that makes her so scared that she's willing to even sacrifice Paul for it. Now, the final scene we've talked about earlier, is them walking down the street. And I saw one comparison with the final scene of The Graduate, where they face the camera, having run away together. They face the camera and the looks of joy drain from their faces, and they're just solemn, because the implication is that their love is based on like a exciting, danger element. And now that that's gone and it's just them together, and they've got the infinite void of their lives stretching out in front of them, that actually makes them feel...
The excitement's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
The spark's gone.
Yeah, right? When they're walking down the street, there's not the sense that they're happy or satisfied. And I wonder whether Jay, in that moment, has seen something that makes her so scared that she's willing to let Paul die just so that she doesn't have the curse on her.
It's an interesting theory, but I do wonder whether it breaks rule 3.
That's true. Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, but this isn't to do with the survival.
You know me, I live by the rules and I die by the rules.
This isn't to do with survival. This is just
it's an interesting point.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most disturbing bits of the film. Yeah. Like, in just a sort of, like I said, it's not like a jump scare. It's like a wide-eyed scare. Like, you're just looking at the screen going, like, what is happening?
Differently to you, and I'm not just saying this to be contrarian for the point of a podcast, I found that part kind of like an anticlimax.
Okay.
Like, the fight had happened, and then lots of blood, and it's like, okay, so is it dead or... And then it goes to the scene of them walking down the road, and it's like, you ask questions of, does it matter, or is that thing behind them, I guess they're going to live like this forever. Yeah. So the blood thing, I don't know, it just didn't really work for me with the rest of the movie. Okay. Because the rest of it's contained, this monster's walking, it's a monster. Yeah. Why did it turn to blood? That's the only question I got of the film.
I guess in it I see some sort of like, there's something like infectious about like the way the blood, because it's not just, it doesn't feel like it's sentience. Dissipating. Yeah. It's like it's taking over the blood. It's like it's taking over the water. Sorry, it's replacing the water with blood. Like, you get the impression that in like a couple of minutes that whole pool is just going to be blood. Yeah. It's not like something is bleeding into the water.
It also seems to be moving in a certain way, like it was in control.
I think there's something very creepy about it. I find anyway.
All right. Yeah. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I do.
I think it's just a really good film. I really, really like this film.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's tight.
Yeah.
I've got another email.
Okay.
From Hannah.
Okay.
She also emailed in. So what was that email again?
That email was howtosurviveshow@gmail.com.
Thanks. So she says she would have sex with someone very young, that's her words. I'd say that to be legal, but still very young, so 16 years old. Then lock them up until all the other victims had died, so that they were the last living victim of the curse, and the curse would die with them, provided that they don't...
Well, I mean, firstly, if we're taking the monster is able eventually to get through anything, then...
Yeah, it's true. I mean, even if you put them in a tower, they can pull the tower down.
Yeah.
Or if you put them in a prison,
if you put them in the middle of a swimming pool, it will throw toasters at them until
they're... exactly. Yeah. It goes back to the same situation. Yes, if you can lock someone up and keep it out. No, if anything else.
Yeah. You have to be 100% certain, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other points about the movie? I have one more.
Go on.
And this is a rub that would really, if true, mess up everything.
Yeah.
The director, David Robert Mitchell, has said in an interview, the monster could potentially board a plane in order to follow the cursed person.
Oh, well, then we're screwed. We're all screwed.
Yeah. But that didn't happen in the movie, and we can't rewrite history.
Well...
Yeah. So,
no, that totally torpedoes my idea.
It does,
I'll be there 2 weeks into my 6 month stay in Sydney,
and it would just drop on your head.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no.
But I, in your defence and in all of our defence, it's basically he's writing a fan fiction for his own movie. Okay. So I discount that. I discredit it. But okay, that's about all we're going to do this week.
Yeah.
We have time for. So next week we're starting our season of monster movies. That is 2 episodes. The first will be Alien, which is the story of an alien.
Yeah.
And the second,
happy-go-lucky alien.
Yeah, and all its adventures on the Nostromo.
Yeah.
And the second week, which will be week 4, is going to be Jurassic World.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, both excellent films.
Mm-hmm.
Both very worthy of How Would You Survive.
Yeah.
Big thanks to everyone who emailed in. That email again, if you want to get in touch with how you'd survive in any of our movies, Friday the 13th or It Follows or anything we've got coming up, or if you want to suggest a movie, or if you've got any feedback for anything we said, the email is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. Peace out.
Thanks very much. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.